Jesus Christ. Amen. My voice may be a little hoarse, but still what has to be said has to be said. So today we are looking at Psalm 66. So you can turn your Bibles to Psalm number 66. I have titled the sermon Key Thoughts from the 66th Psalm. Key Thoughts from the 66th Psalm. So we will read this psalm and try to milk as much gold as we can from our reading. For I believe there's so much to derive from reading this psalm. It's a wonderful exposition of the omnipotent, glorious, majestic, and just God. You can see from the choice of songs today that we're looking at the holiness and majesty, greatness, and justice of our eternal God. To him we give all the praise and honor. Amen. Amen. I'm also glad that today in the morning we were treated to a Sabbath school that extolled the same values that we find in our God. And what he expects of us is his church. That royal priesthoodness, that calling, that peculiarity as a nation that we have been given. It's a great privilege and honor to be a child of God. I can testify that it is a great privilege. And in my walk with the Lord, since I was baptized many years ago, I can tell you that it's been a great privilege. There have been moments of discouragement. There have been ups and downs in my life, turns and twists. But what has sustained me through it all is the greatness and benevolence of our wonderful Savior, Jesus Christ. So let's read that psalm. It says, "Make a joyful noise unto God, all ye lands. Sing forth the honor of his name, and make his praise glorious. Say unto God, how terrible art thou in thy works. Through the greatness of thy power shall thine enemies submit themselves unto thee. All the earth shall worship thee, and shall sing unto thee. They shall sing to thy name, Selah. Come and see the works of God. He is terrible in his doing toward the children of men. He turned the sea into dry land. They went through the flood on foot. There did we rejoice in him. He ruleth by his power forever. His eyes behold the nations. Let not the rebellious exalt themselves. Selah. Oh, bless our God, ye people, and make the voice of his praise to be heard." Psalm 66, verses 1 to 8. Extolling the greatness, the majesty, the wonder of the God that we worship. Now he says, at some point in the future, all nations shall bow down before him and worship him, whether in praise or in regret or in late remorse. After the end of probation, all nations shall admit that God is truly wonderful and worthy to be praised. They may refuse to do so now, to honor him now. They may honor all the idols of the world that they have made for themselves, or honor their kings, or honor the Pope, or whoever they want to give honor and praise to. But the time is coming in this world that all mouths shall be silenced, that all knees shall bow down to praise the only true and wonderful God, the creator of this universe. He is a personal God. He is is a God that invites his creatures to worship him. He invites you to worship him. Not because he craves your worship, or he wants somehow you to give undue honor which you don't feel is due to him, or he wants you to increase his ego. He doesn't have an ego issue at all. He calls on you to worship him because it is your privilege to worship him. He calls on me to worship him because it is a privilege and honor to worship him. He calls on all creation to worship him because it is to their own good that they worship him and to their own privilege. He benefits nothing from our worship. Although he loves fellowship with us, he doesn't force us or compel us to worship him. It's why we worship him out of a free will and free choice. No one will say at the end, I was forced into worship. I was forced into fellowship. I was forced into a church. I was forced into heaven. Because in heaven, there will be no fugitives or refugees in heaven. People who have found their way into a place that they hate. Those in heaven will be there because they have chosen to worship God of their own volition. They have loved God. They have listened to his teachings. They have obeyed his doctrine. They have read his Bible. So to him, to them, all praise and honor is due to him that calls upon them to worship him because he is a great God. He says, let's make a joyful noise to God. Not chaotic noise. Not discord. Not clamoring and shout. A joyful noise. Organized music. Organized worship. Systematic worship. Compassionate worship. Meaningful worship. Authentic worship. True worship. That to God is honorable than God. He calls on all creatures to make a joyful noise to him because his dominion is well established. He doesn't claim to be a ruler. He is a ruler. He doesn't claim to be a creator. He is the creator. He doesn't claim to be a God. He is the only true God. Therefore, it is an honor and a privilege of great wonder which we can even evaluate now today because it is self-evident that he who calls us to worship him is who he is. And what makes him who he is what inspires our worshiping praises to him. Therefore, it should be a privilege for every worshiper to feel that, yes, they are at the right place when they worship God because all worship is due to him. We have been singing here that he is holy, and he is holy, and he is holy indeed. I can tell you now, as I do now, in many places in this world, in the homes, in the valleys, in the crevices, in the churches, wherever they have gathered, in Australia, New Zealand, in America, wherever they are, those who know who God is are enjoying worshiping him today, wherever they may be. It is a praise worship. It's a time to worship God. It's a pleasure for fallen men to come close to God and acknowledge that God, much as I am fallen, much as I am a sinner, I am privileged to be called your child. I am privileged to be your worshiper. I am privileged to be your follower. I am not forced. I delight in praising God. I can tell you now, as I do now, that even in heaven, there are trillions upon trillions of angelic angels, cherubim, seraphs, who worship God, not because they are compelled to worship God. They have known him ever since, and know no other truth about him except what he is. They enjoy worshiping him in unison, singing in one chorus to God, who is the author and finisher of our faith as Christians on earth. But in heaven, he is their holy commander. They never fell into sin. He is not a mere God, some imagined human impostor, some deity, some manly foolishness. No. He is God, the one divine, true, majestic, intelligent being and creator of us all, who is a wise and just being, who is merciful, who is all-knowing, who is eternal, who fills the whole space, who is a spirit. We worship him in truth and in spirit because we know that he has called us to worship him. He is the Father of all the saints, and he demands obedience and worship from us. If we are true to our calling, we will obey him and trust him and worship him because it is good to do so. There's no other thing we can do other than to worship him and to pay obedience to him because he is a holy God. There was a king in Egypt long ago. He was told by Moses to say, let my people go out and worship me in the wilderness. Then he said, who is God that I should worship him? Who is God that I should worship him? Because then in Egypt, they worshipped frogs, they worshipped the river Nile, they worshipped the sun, and many other entities there, which they themselves had made. They called them God. They called the Nile God because it gave them water, replenishment. It made it easy for them to water their plants. Therefore, to them, it became a God. They worshipped the sun because it was the most majestic thing in the sky. Therefore, to them, it was God. Therefore, they chose to worship the creature, not the creator. But I'm saying to you, much as Pharaoh said, who is God that I should worship him? When he did come to his senses, I don't think he ever came to us. When he drowned at the Red Sea, at the power of God, when the waves covered him and buried him under, when all his chariots, all his horsemen, all his army perished in the Red Sea, it was too late for him to kneel down and worship God. He had been given a chance to worship God, and he had let it go by. Now see, I have made thee a God to Pharaoh, and Aaron shall be thy prophet. See, I have made thee a God to Pharaoh, and Aaron shall be thy prophet. Exodus 7, verse 1. You can go and confirm that one. So you won't say that I'm lying. Exodus 7, verse 1. This occurs when Moses is commissioned to go and set free, to go and release, to go and lead out of Egypt, a nation called by God. A royal nation. I haven't borrowed from those who took part in the morning. A royal priesthood, a chosen nation. He was told to go and call them out of Egypt. Because their time to be called out had come. Now Moses was a mere mortal like you and me. He was a man like you and me. He was also subject to fear like you and me. He fled and lived in Midian because of Pharaoh, who would be angry that he had killed an Egyptian. So Moses was a man of weaknesses like you and me. A man who could fear like you and me. He was then called after 40 years to go back to where he had fled and go and approach the monarch, a hostile Pharaoh, and tell him, the God who made heaven and earth, the God who called me, the God who spoke to me by the bush, has told me to tell you to let his people go. Let them go and worship him peacefully, freely in the wilderness. So Pharaoh said, who is God that I should worship him? Then God said to Moses, Moses, I know you complain that you stammer. You complain that what hardness of speech. You complain you're not eloquent of language. I will send Aaron with you. He will speak for you. You will instruct him. He will speak. Don't fear, Pharaoh. I'm there with you. When it comes to pronouncement of my will, Aaron, your brother, will do it. He is eloquent. He will say what you tell him. Therefore, I will make Pharaoh fear Aaron. To Pharaoh, Aaron will be a priest. You will be a god to him. Did therefore God mean that Moses was now God? Did therefore God mean that Aaron was now a priest? Although later he was called into the priesthood, was he then a priest? No. God does not say Moses will be God, or Moses will be like God. God says, to Pharaoh you will be a God. That's what he says. He doesn't say you will be God. He says you will be a God. So he is addressing from Pharaoh's perspective. When this man sees you, and sees my glory in you, sees my holiness in you, sees my majesty in you, when you address him, he will fear as if he's before God, because of my presence in you. Now listen, if God is in you, your life is transformed. If God lives in you, your values change. How you look changes. How you speak changes. How you are perceived by the world changes, because he lives in you. This man would not, because he wasn't deceived. That's what God meant. He knew God meant that your stature before Pharaoh will be much elevated. Pharaoh will tremble and fear before you because of him who sent you. It is him who sends us, who qualifies us and makes us what we should be, not us. So Pharaoh was to see Moses as a God,
Because he was used to God that he worshipped. He was used to manifest of God. So when he saw Moses, you would then think this man is more than I am. This man deserves homage. And you would then perhaps listen to him. Then that would be the avenue which Moses would use to convince his mind. So he would not be God. He would be a God. The word a is an indefinite article. It's not like the, which is a definite article. Now, Moses won't be the God. He will be a God. You know, because God speaks to perception, how he will be regarded by the other, by the listener, by the audience. They will see in Moses a God. Now remember when Moses came down Mount Horeb, he was shining in that brightness. For 40 days he had been with God there, communing with him. Now you see, by beholding you become changed. Those 40 days made Moses shine brightly like God. When he came down, came to the stone there, and they seeing him and his brightness, veiled their faces. They asked Moses, please veil your face, cover your face, because you are shining, we can't even behold you. He had been transformed by proximity to God. The more we come to God, the more we look like him. If we don't look like him now, it's because we're too far from him. Come near him, you will look like him, sound like him, speak like him, because you have been with him and he lives in you. Therefore, Moses would go there and address Pharaoh in the power and presence and eloquence and truthfulness of God, and Pharaoh seeing Moses would then hearken to him. Hopefully, he would do so. Then Aaron would be merely a spokesperson. So he is a priest only in his role as a spokesman. He speaks for Moses, who has been sent by God. Aaron has not been sent by God. Aaron accompanies Moses, who has been sent by God, to speak the wisdom of God through Moses. That is why Aaron will become a priest, in that he speaks on behalf of Moses. Why so? Those who are in deep sin can't commune directly with God. When Adam fell into sin, and Eve fell into sin, God would every day visit them and speak to them, ceased to do that. When he found that they had been in sin and spoke to them about their sin, he then raised the priesthood. He then raised the prophets, who would come there and mediate between him and the fallen. We as sinners need mediation. Now Christ is our mediator. He speaks to God on our behalf. Because we understand that we are so far away from God in our mind, in our thinking, in our senses. Therefore, he allows that mediation. So secondly, now I want to explain. Now Moses received power from God. The power he received was not his own. So Moses was a delegate. The power he had was delegated authority from God. It wasn't his own power. He could not claim, I have the power to turn this road into a serpent. He could not claim, I have the power to dry up the Nile River or turn this water into blood. I can call the flies out of this world and into your house, Pharaoh. I can call the frogs out of the Nile into your bedroom, Pharaoh. He could not claim that. I can now bring light to Goshen and darkness to Egypt. He could not claim that. I can bring hail and storms and destroy the whole world. He couldn't claim that. It was power by delegation. He was only a messenger of God. Therefore, the power he had was not his own. If we have any power or abilities, if we can sing, if we can preach, if we can pray for the sick and their healed, it is not on our account. It is because of him who sent us. If we do his work with humility, with fear, he will honor us. Mighty works shall follow us as a church. Right now, the church is not doing what it should be doing all over the world. Christ has come all over the world. The work is not done because we are so far removed from Christ and busy with our own things. If we were to draw near to him, he would come to us, he would enable us, empower us, we would speak like Aaron, we would speak like Moses, and things would happen. Now I want to leave Moses now, and the authority that he got. He was careful enough not to brag about it. So if you're a good singer, don't brag about your talent. If you can preach, don't brag about your preaching ability. If you can sing, don't brag about singing. If you can pray, don't brag about praying. You are there to to extol virtue to God and therefore bless the church. It's what you are there for. Your blessings, your talents must be shared by the church to glorify the church, not yourself. Whoever brags about ability, about posture, about eloquence, about intelligence, about education, does not know God yet. Now I want to go further now and leave that point. So God gives Moses a clear mandate to go there and tell Pharaoh the one truth: he should let God's people go. Moses' power is given to him on account of his position as messenger of God. While he works for God, God will protect his power through Moses. God will, through the rod in Moses' hand, show that Moses is indeed duly called and commissioned to call people out. The power he has is not in that rod. That rod was always with him, Moses, as a shepherd. What made his rod different was the power which commissioned him. What makes your voice different, what makes your teaching different, your prayer different, is the power of him who commissions you and indwells you. If it's your power, it can't bless the church. It can only destroy it. So Psalm 66 verse 2. I want to go to that one now and just do some quick evaluation of that one. Psalm 66 verse 2. Let's go to that one. 66 verse 2. It says, sing forth the honor of his name. Make his praise glorious. Sing forth the honor of his name. Make his praise glorious. Don't sing to your glory. Don't preach to your glory. Don't teach to your glory. Don't give alms to the poor to your glory. Don't do things to your glory. Don't point at yourself because you are nothing. God is everything. When you sing, it says sing praises to God and honor his name because his name is glorious. God works creation. God does recreation. God brings holiness. God brings redemption. God brings judgment. His judgments are terrible. God calls angels into existence. God calls stars into existence. Calls planets into existence. Trees into existence. Rivers into existence. The sea into existence. God's power is inside him. He is power himself. He thinks things and they are there. He says things and they are there. Doesn't touch them. He says them. He imagines them. They are there. Because great is his name. Glorious is his praise. He is God who will breathe life into the dead corpse of Adam. He will breathe life into the lips of Eve. And then it becomes a soul that lives again. He will destroy the people of the flood during the flood. He will destroy wickedness in the world. But he will keep the faithful eight in the ark. He will keep the ark from capsizing and sinking into the sea, into the water. He will keep the ark from the strife, from the deluge, from the blast. He will keep it steady above all the storms. He will part later the waters of the Red Sea. He will dry the Red Sea and create and cave a path through it, where they can walk on solid ground. He will bring down the walls of Jericho through a song. You want to push them against the walls. They will just sing there as long as the name of the Lord is in that song. As long as their intentions are in that song and they are holding for him. As long as they are doing it in obedience to him, the walls will come tumbling down. That's how God does. Through a choir, delivers Israel and gives them over Jericho with a song. He will feed a nation for 40 years. He will give them water for the storm. Manna for 40 years. Preserve their shoes for 40 years. Not being torn or wearing out, he will do so. He will stop the sun from setting to allow his people to destroy their enemies. He is able to tell history from the beginning. He is able to assume. He is able to bring up the dead and take them to heaven. He is able to transform lives and make them meaningful and valuable in his sight. He will die on the cross for the sinner like you and me. and then forgive the sinner when he curses. He will die also for his enemies. That curse them, he will bless them. Because God is a wonderful being. Let's read Psalm 66, verse 3. It's why David says in the Psalm, so great and wondrous are his works. It's why he says, so glorious is his name. It's why he says, all praises due to him who only is worthy to worship. Psalm 66, verse 3. It says here, say unto God, how terrible thou art in thy works. Through the greatness of thy power shall thine enemies submit themselves unto thee. Through the greatness of thy power, shall thine enemies submit unto thee. The devil has refused to submit for over 6,000 years. Even with all the facts and evidence, he can't submit that he is wrong. He can't admit that he is wrong. He can't repent because it's beyond him. He has no remorse in him or shame in him. Continues to rebel and to destroy, to fight the church, to fight God's people, to cause chaos in the world. But at the end of time, after all is said and done, the devil and his minions will bow down before him and say, truly God, your works are great. Your judgment is right. At the end, when it's too late, he will bow down. Now I want to say this thing to you. We ought to understand that the God we worship has terrible works, which means his record is terrible. It's exact, it's accurate, it's all powerful, that all the knees shall bow down. All the powers on earth and beyond shall bow down and acknowledge him as the only blessed and true God, as the only potentate. They, sinners, will acknowledge that fact at the end, outside the city of God. There is an apostate power in the world, the power of Rome. I am not ashamed to say that because I must say it. It is the truth that we ought to know. There is an apostate power of Rome, a mere mortal who has convinced himself that he is God and who demands that he should be worshipped. There is such a power in the world. And we have been warned in the Bible to stay away from it and to avoid getting his mark. And the warning is still abiding to us today, because the time of that power has come for that power to manifest himself. At some point in history, before the fall of Babylon, the priests of Babylon, the Chaldeans, who worshipped the sun, who worshipped Marduk, used to apply the name of their human gods, of the king of Babylon, of Nebuchadnezzar and those who came after him. They used to call him Pontifex Maximus. Pontifex Maximus. That's the name that they gave him. He was worshipped then as a king. Worshipped as a deity, worshipped as a god, but he was a king who had to be worshipped. That is why, when he was told history through a dream that God gave him, and told that his kingdom would come to an end, his kingdom was only the head part of that statue. He rebelled against that vision, that dream. He was told, you king are Babylon, the golden part of the statue. After you shall come, the Medes and the Persians, and thereafter the Greeks, and then the Romans, then the many nations bound together around Rome. Then the end shall come, and God shall put in this world a kingdom above any other kingdom, which will not end. He rebelled against that. Then he built a statue, all gods, from head to toe, to say and to assert that my kingdom shall not perish. That man died. His sons after him died. Medes came in and took over. Cyrus, Darius took over. Afterwards, Alexander came there with Greece, they took over. Afterwards, the Caesar of Rome took over. Afterwards, the Pope of Rome took over. And the one who took over will continue until the end. Now read Revelation 13, verse 8. I am saying that God's power is contested. There are some entities in this world that will contest the power that God has, that want to torment themselves and compel worship and force people to worship them, to worship human entities, to worship a human being who is a sinner like themselves. And behind that being is the devil himself, which is there to worship, because he always wants to be worshipped. Revelation 13, verse 8. I'll read that one in your hearing. It says here, and all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, I'll repeat that. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of the Lamb, slain from the foundation of the world. And all that dwell in the world shall worship him. You know, I mean, you can go and check semantics, go and check dictionary meanings, go and check whatever layer of meaning you want to apply to the term all. All is all inclusive. All excludes none. All means all. Now, if you can't worship God, you will worship something else. Nature doesn't have a vacuum. If you can't worship the only true God, you will indeed worship something else. Your heart can't be void. God creates a void in your heart, a desire, a need to praise and to worship God only. He creates the craving for worship, the desire for worship, to honor the Creator is in your heart, it's in your mind, it's inbuilt, it's given to you to make it possible for you to worship God. But if you won't honor Him or worship Him, that craving will be fulfilled some way or the other. That emptiness will be filled some way or the other. You will worship something else. My Bible says, all in the world worship the beast, worship the Pope of Rome. All of them, all worship him. It means whether Muslims or Buddhists or Shintoists or African enemies or whatever faith, or whatever sect, whatever tradition, whatever belief system, they all worship the devil. All of the religions of this world and wisdom of this world and the philosophies of this world, all of them congregate in one place. All of the idolatry, the witchcraft, the wizardry, all of the dark arts congregate in one place because they have one source. That source is Lucifer, it's the devil. All that can't pay homage to God will come to him. All of them. Now, you see, you might say, I will decide not to worship. I will decide not to worship. I will resist. I know these things. We've been taught in church. I've read these things in the Bible. I know the devil will demand worship. I know he will use a human entity. I know the Bishop of Rome, the Pope, will be that entity. I know that the world will have to be forced to worship on pain of death. I know that, but what I know, I want to eat. Now listen, the Bible is not mistaken. If it says all, it means all will worship him. As long as God is not the trigger of your responses religiously, something else will trigger your responses. As long as God to you is not attractive, something else will attract you. At the end, all will worship. Then it says, except those whose names were written in the book of the Lamb, slain from the foundation of the world. That is the only exception. Why so? Because this class of people are sealed and preserved and strengthened and vitalized by God himself. He makes it impossible for them to fall. They don't stand on their own account or on their own strength or power. They are sustained in the ark. Like those 8 who were in the ark. Like Noah and his wife, like Ham and his wife, like Japheth and his wife, all who went in there were sustained in the storm and in the blast by God while in the ark. Those who are in God now, who are sealed by him for salvation now, who have accepted the truth and have allowed the Holy Ghost to indwell them, are sustained in the time of trouble. Like those who walked all the way to Egypt and fed from God's manna and were kept by his manna and drank from the rock and walked on sandals which never wore out. Those were sustained by God himself. Tell me about it. How old are your shoes? How old are your shoes that you wear every day? How old is your foot? How old are your sheets? Do they get too old? Do they get torn? Do they need to be replaced? Do you buy new clothing That is the nature of the world. Everything in the world gets old and rots because the world itself is old and ragged and rotten. Sin lives in the world. Nothing stays the same forever. Everything moves in the world. Now imagine 40 years walking in the desert, on the sand, on rocks, on shifting stones, day in, day out for 40 years. Some I see here are not even 20. 40 years is a long time, yet they never change their shoes. The manna that came down never ended until they crossed over. God's bank did not need to be replenished. I'll tell you this thing. As we head toward the conclusion, I want to conclude now. God sustains the faithful. God preserves the faithful. God honors the faithful. God protects the faithful. God uplifts the faithful. God saves the faithful. God seals the faithful. And God will see the faithful through. They will get to heaven unhindered, the faithful. Now, let me just read the last part of the Psalms and end it. I'll go back to Psalm 66 now. I have to end. I'll go back to Psalm 66 and I have to end. I'll read from verse 4 and then go another. It says, all the earth shall worship thee, and shall sing unto thee. They shall sing to thy name, all the earth. Which means even those who have turned their backs to God and worship the idols, worship whatever entity, they will be forced by sheer weight of evidence to worship him. I will describe just how that will happen. It says, he turned the sea into dry land. They went through the sea, through the flood on foot. There it will rejoice. Then he says, he rules by his power forever, and his eyes behold the nations. Let not the rebellious exalt upon themselves. I want to conclude it this way. The works of God which you read in the Bible are history. History is the record of men's achievements, men's failures, aspirations, whatever was into the archives and is recorded as history. But God also is a prophet. Because prophecy is history foretold. And this is prophecy fulfilled. God knows the end from the beginning. He knows your end. He knows my end. And history is there to remind us, as a teacher, that he who did all of these things in the past still has the power to do what remains to be done. And he will do it when the time is come. Now you see, when the time comes, you and I should have made decisions concerning what we will worship. It is clear, therefore, as far as I'm concerned, that we're headed toward the end. My last word. You see, when those who are outside the city, because after 1,000 years, the church in heaven and this master, Jesus Christ, will come back to this world. They will come back to this world after 1,000 years. A world which will have been destroyed during Christ's second coming. And let all the dead in rebellion be buried on the surface of this earth. Because the flash of his presence, his glory and holiness will destroy everything in his way, except those who are being saved. After 1,000 years, when Christ comes in that mighty great city, it will land on Mount Olivet, which will stretch out over 40 years. It will stretch out and become a plain. The city will land on that flat plain, walled at all corners, with God inside, with his people, worshiping him. Then the Bible tells us in Revelation chapter 20 that Christ shall call the dead to rise from their grave. They will come out from all over, wherever they lay one buried. They will come out. Then the devil who would have been on leave for 1,000 years will claim them. He will claim them. them while they lived. Again, he will say, look, remember him who came last time around and destroyed you. I have raised you. To them, that is yesterday. Because there is no sense of history or time while they were dead. They can't remember anything except the last impulses of their death when Christ came. So the devil will say, I raised you from the dead. Now see how many of us are. See how many of us are. Because they paid homage to the devil himself through the Pope. They were obeying for the last time. He will say, let's march now against the city from all corners of the world. We are a mighty army in the billions or trillions. With all our mighty commanders, they will march against the city. Once they get there, will be the final evidence of their fall. When up in the sky, they will see against their names. Like Christ wrote the names of the men who were welding stones to kill that woman who was caught in adultery. They will see in public, in the sky, their record, why they are lost, why they are outside the city, not inside the city. At that point, the summary I read to you will be fulfilled. The devil will read his own record, while Lucifer in heaven. His angels will read their own records. All the lost emperors will read their records. All the thieves, crooks, all the sinners of this world lost will read their records. And for once, they will kneel down and say, oh, wonderful, true and just are your judgments, O Lord. The devil will lead that pronouncement. He will say, God, you are true and just. At that point, then rise again because it's a replay. At that point, the fire will come down from heaven and destroy all of them. At the point, the psalm mentions here to say, all the nations shall worship him. At the end. Our time to worship God is today. So we can worship him from inside the city at the end, without grievance or fear. May God bless the reading of his word.